Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's broadcast here on I Am Braveheart. I am Sandy Lenian, and for those of you who don't know me, for the last 25 years, have been a spirit medium, connecting you to your loved ones on the other side, and also a transformational life coach, helping you to move through the really tough moments, the moments where you get broken open by life, and helping you move through those times with authenticity and integrity and with more bravery. So thank you so much for being here. When you come on, just say something so that I know that you're here. Glad to have you guys here. Yay. So we have a lot to cover tonight. I love this topic about really the fear of sharing what's inside of you and sharing how you feel and the fear of asking for what you want. That's what we're going to be covering tonight. And I'm also going to be sharing the heavy price that you pay when you don't share, when you're not honest with yourself and honest with other people. We're going to talk about the number one fear that's most likely underneath it. And then we're going to talk about how you can shift that so that you can really start sharing from your heart. And when you do that, you're going to feel a sense of freedom. You're going to feel more in alignment and all that. So welcome, welcome, welcome. So before I go into the material, I want to ask you, how many of you here have seen the movie Liar, Liar with Jim Carrey? It's a really, really cute movie. And in it, Jim Carrey is a high-powered attorney. And he's like lying all the time. He lies in the courtroom. He lies with his clients. He hardly shows up on time, if at all, with his young son for his custodial visits. He just lies all the time and tells all these white lies, big lies, little lies. And his little son, on his son's birthday, made a wish for his birthday and said, I just want for one day, I want my dad to not be able to lie. For 24 hours, I want him to just tell the truth. And it's hysterical what happens to him. What he ends up doing is he's like blurting out this truth all over the place and he's embarrassing himself. And I want you to know that's not what we're talking about here. We're not talking about blurting stuff out. We're talking about how you can share truly what it's like to be you, even if it's scary and even when it's uncomfortable. And I want you to know that the reason I love teaching about this is because I lived the opposite first. For so much of my life, I was so scared to share what was really going on inside of me. And I'll share some of the reasons why, and maybe you can relate to them. But I was so afraid of really telling people what I felt, especially if I felt upset, if I felt hurt, if I felt angry. And so what I did instead was I smiled a lot. I would say things like, it's okay. Meanwhile, inside I'm like, it's so not okay. Tell me, like, give me a thumbs up or a type yes in the chat box if you can relate to that. You know, for me, again, for a lot of my life, there was the story of what was happening inside of me, like when I was upset or disappointed, and yet the outside of me showed a completely different picture to people in my life and my relationships and even the face that I put on to the world. And it became pretty problematic because it's difficult to live. It's almost like you're living two different lives, like the life that you have that people see you as having, and then what's really happening inside. So I want to share some of the things that I found were hard for me. And again, I hope you can relate to this, and we're going to do a turnaround at the end. So why it's so often so hard for us to truly, honestly share what's going on inside of us. Number one, we judge ourselves for feeling a certain way. Now, I don't know about you, but I judged myself for ever being angry. Like, anger for me was an emotion that, in my mind, I judged as not okay being angry. And so when you have something like anger or sadness that you're saying, I shouldn't be feeling that, you end up pushing it down, you don't acknowledge it, and you stuff it and you swallow it. So let me know if that's happened to you. A lot of times it may not have been modeled for you what to do with certain emotions, what to do with sadness, what to do with anger, what to do with disappointment. You may not have seen how to express it in a healthy way. So you might not have learned. Another reason that it might be hard for you is sometimes you just might not know what you're feeling. You just like, I'm feeling off. I don't know what this is. I'm just, you might just be a bundle of all emotions, and it might be a little bit hard to sort out what you're feeling. Again, give me a thumbs up or hit like or love if you can identify with that. And when it's hard for us to identify what we're feeling and it's hard to articulate it, we can so easily get caught up in a story. Like, you did this, you did that, they did this, they did that. And when you get caught up in the story, the energy doesn't move. It actually just goes circular. Another reason why it's hard is, and I hear this a lot from my students and from my clients, so often we hold back what we're feeling because we're already anticipating how the other person is going to react. Let's say you want to say something to your spouse, and every time you've said it before, they've gotten upset. And so you're thinking, oh, I can't say anything because every other time I've said something, they get upset, and then they end up taking care of how they feel, or I got to make them feel better, or I got to tiptoe around their anger. Been there. Not a comfortable thing. Or maybe you want to ask your boss for a raise, and you've done that before, and they've shot you right down. And so there's a part of you that gets afraid of really sharing what's so important to you. And so the energy gets stuck. Sometimes we say, well, they won't be able to handle what I feel. So I may as well keep it in. Another one is, I hear this one a lot too. And I lived this one. I've lived all of these, by the way. A lot of times we are afraid that we'll disappoint someone. And what I find with my clients and my students, when there is a fear of disappointing someone else, guess who gets hurt? You do. Because anytime you squelch that energy, whether it's anger or fear or sadness, anytime you squelch it, we'll go into what it's doing to you, because it's doing something to you. Sometimes you might be thinking, if I really shared what I was feeling inside, what if I was judged? What if they reject me? What if there's no response? What's the use of even sharing anything? And that can shut you down too. But I want you to know something. The number one fear that's underneath all of that. You ready? The number one fear of why we don't share is because there's a fear that we're going to lose something. Maybe there's a fear of losing someone's respect. Maybe it's a fear of losing their love. Maybe it's a fear of losing their attention. But I want you to just sit with that and see if that makes sense for you. Because if that fear of loss wasn't there, then we would be able to just share who we are and what we're feeling. You might be afraid, well, if I say something, if I say about how I feel, maybe I'll lose my job. And I also want to share the faulty thinking that goes in with this fear. What's also mixed into that is I'm attached to how they feel. For instance, if I'm saying, I feel really hurt, if my mind is attached to the person across from me saying, uh-oh, how are they going to feel? I've just jumped out of me and into their energy. And I did that for so long, you guys. It's why I stayed silent for a long time in terms of how I really felt and expressing what I really felt. And so I want to share with you what it does to you, and that it's so unhealthy. And again, I did this for so long. I did this to myself for so long, and then I learned how to turn it around, and I'm going to share that with you. So some of the dangers of not sharing what you're feeling. On a physical level, You can start to get headaches. Um, some of my students say that they get chest pains when they don't share. It can show up as digestive issues going on. You could lose sleep. Like, how many times have you been laying in bed wishing you had just, you go over and over in your mind, like, I gotta say this, no, I can't. I want to say this, no, I can't. I want to share that, no, I can't, right? And it stays in our head, and it can affect your sleep. It can affect your stress level. It can affect your blood pressure. It will absolutely affect your energy. And let me explain why. It will actually drain your energy and cause you to lose power. Because when you are trying to protect someone else, and again, I'm going to go into this a little bit deeper. When you're trying to protect someone else from feeling something, that takes a lot of energy inside of you to try and manage that emotion and to keep it stuffed down. That takes a tremendous amount of your energy. So if you're feeling extra tired, you might want to ask yourself, is there something that I'm feeling that I'm not sharing? And I can hear what some of you are saying. I can, just because I've been you. So I can hear you might be thinking, yeah, but I don't want to hurt anyone. And that's not what we're talking about here. The person that you're hurting is you. So we talked about what happens on a physical level. On an emotional level, if you squelch what you're feeling, again, if you hold your anger in, if you hold your sadness in, if you hold your fear in, if you even hold in what feels right for you or what it is that you really, really want, if you hold that in and you swallow it and you squelch it and you stuff it, it can turn into anger towards yourself. It can turn into resentment. It will turn into isolation and depression. Anything that you don't express, think about the opposite of expression is depression. You press it in. If you're not pressing it out, you're pressing it in, and it will come back and hurt you energetically. It causes you to feel small and insignificant. Here's how it can hurt your relationships. I know this kind of sounds like, oh my God, this is all doom and gloom, but I promise you there's hope, because I want to share with you how to shift all of that. I just want to show you the underbelly of it, because this is stuff that most people don't talk about. And that's why I love doing these videos, because we talk about stuff that most people don't. But what it can do to your relationships, it will absolutely build a wall. And that's what I did in a couple of relationships, because I was so afraid to share. It's like every time you don't share, it's another brick and another brick and another brick in that wall. Again, type something, say, yes, that makes sense, or give me a thumbs up. I just want to know that you can relate to this. If you also hold it in and hold it in and hold it in, and again, this is what happened to me. I held my frustration and my resentment and my anger in for so long that it built up so much. And in the relationship, not this one, but the last one I was in, it built up so much that I ended up vomiting, not literally, but like vomiting this anger all over this person. The swears that came out of me, it was like, honestly, you guys, it was this rage that came out of me, and it was very destructive. But the reason that it was because it was pushed down and held down for so long. And I knew if I didn't say anything, I was going to implode. Now, I don't recommend waiting until it gets to that point. You know what it's like? It's like if you had a 2-liter bottle of soda and you shook it and you shook it and you shook it and you shook it, and there was no release at all. And then you go to open it, it would go, pow. That's what happens. You might be on the receiving end of that right now, and that's not okay. It's not okay for you to receive that from someone else, and it's also not okay for us to explode that onto someone else either, because then you end up going into guilt, and you then retract stuff, and it's a mess. The other thing that holding all of this energy does to you, it keeps you vibrationally feeling like a victim. Like, I can't say anything because they're going to get upset. That's victim energy. Or you might be thinking, I can't say anything because they don't listen to me anyway. That's victim energy. And just so you know, when we play in that victim energy, it's a low frequency of energy. Guess where your joy is? Your joy is hanging out up here. So if you want to create more joy in your life, I'm going to invite you to really pay close attention. And if you are just joining this video now, you guys, you got to go watch it from the very beginning, because this is lots of important stuff here. So, yeah, what's really happening underneath everything that's going on when you squelch what you're feeling, or you push it down, or you swallow it and you stuff it, is you're allowing fear to run your life. Ready for this? Take notes of this, because this is a really cool statement. It came out in my private group last night, and I loved it so much that I wrote it down. You ready? Sometimes we often feel like other people are silencing us, but no one is silencing you but your fear. No one. Fear is the only thing that can silence you. So let me know if that resonates with you. So it's okay if this is what you've done. Again, it's how I have lived for so much of my life. But then I learned how to dig down. And when I found out, wow, there was a fear of loss. Like, what I was doing was, rather than face that fear of loss, I lost myself. And I don't want you to do that. I want you to come home to you. I want you to come home and experience your higher self and experience what that kind of living is for you. So, you ready? Let's talk about how you can turn this around. Hold on, before I go there was something that I forgot. Also, when you're squelching all of that, what's happening to your heart is you're closing your heart, and it feels like the heart closes for protection. But when the heart is closed for protection or for any other reason, and fear will do that, when your heart is closed, you end up staying in fear. And when your heart is closed, the divine can't get through to you. When your heart is closed, your higher self, you won't be able to hear your higher self. You won't be able to hear God's conversations with you. So, you ready? Step one, you got to be honest with yourself. Take time to get centered so that you can say, wait a minute, what am I really feeling? Like, you might be feeling sad, but then as you're really honest with yourself, you might realize, wow, no, I'm not sad, I'm angry. So it's important to take that time for you and really, really, really get honest and ask yourself, what is it that I'm feeling? Hold on, just see my notes here. Yeah, so step two is to surrender the conversation that you want to have. When we're talking about sharing what you feel, it's not about saying to someone, you know, here's what I feel about you. I think you're an idiot, or I think you're a jerk. That's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about is learning how to share what it feels like to be you. So using statements like, I feel hurt, I feel angry, I feel sad. When you say that, the other person, you're not responsible for how they react. So when you can learn how to release attachment to the outcome and really dig in and find your brave self and learn how to say, this is what I feel. Please don't get into the mistake of blaming that other person for what you feel. They're not responsible for what you feel. What you feel is yours, and you need to honor it. You might find that if you're angry, as you sit with it and as you get really, really honest with yourself, you might find, oh, yeah, I'm angry, but you know what? More than anything, I just feel sad and I feel scared. And that's what's important to communicate. So one thing that I do as I surrender any conversation that's going to feel uncomfortable, or a conversation that I go, ooh, I don't know if I want to have this because I'm a little scared, I do. I surrender the conversation. I pray for the right words to be spoken from my heart. I pray to stay out of the other person's energy and just stay in me, so that I'm not taking anyone else hostage. I'm simply sharing. Step 3, I think that was step 3. It's either 3 or 4, whatever it is. I think it's 3. Is also to keep it about you. Some of the languaging that I've come into that I love it, because I got to tell you guys, remember I've said for so long it was very, very difficult for me to share what I felt because I couldn't find the words. The irony was I was a professional speaker, teaching workshops, coaching, but in my personal life, I couldn't find the words to articulate, I feel really hurt, I feel sad, I feel scared, I feel angry. I couldn't find the words. I just wanted someone to give me a script. So you can write these down if you want to. Some of the things that I say now that really, really support me in my relationships are, this is what it feels like to be me right now. Or it could be, this is what it feels like to be me when you do that. Again, you're not telling them, you have to go fix this now. You're simply sharing, this is what it feels like to be me. In Glennon Doyle Melton's book, I think she just goes by Glennon Doyle now. Her book is called Love Warrior. She says, I've realized my job is to tell the story of my inside to the outside. So when you keep this about you and you can start expressing what you feel, truly what you feel, not getting stuck in the story like, I can't believe you did this and every time you do this and you never and you always, you're stuck in the story. When you keep it about you, you can start to set yourself free. When you can keep it about you and you can articulate and you can let go of the outcome, you can let that person be disappointed. Give them permission to be disappointed. Give them permission to feel whatever they need to feel, because it's not about them. Whatever you're feeling, even if you think it's about them, guess what? It's not. If you get triggered and you're hurt and you're sad and you're scared, chances are, I nearly guarantee this, chances are you've felt it before and you've probably felt it many times throughout your past. And so often we make the person in front of us responsible for the pain that's behind us. And that keeps us stuck in these circular patterns of relationships that don't work. So I'm here to support you. If you have a question, write it here. I'm not going to answer a whole lot of questions on this live broadcast tonight. However, I want you to join us over on the Brave Heart Rising group. It's my free group right here on Facebook, because we're going to continue the conversation over there. So you got your steps. You understand how important it is to really start expressing. When you do, you're going to feel a sense of freedom. Your vibration, when you're honest with yourself and you start just sharing honestly, your vibration's going to start to rise. And when you come from a higher vibration, a higher frequency, you start to attract a higher and greater good into your life. So keep it about you. Honor what you're feeling. And I had a silly side note. If this feels too difficult for you, I'm going to ask you to practice in a smaller way. How many times have you gone into a restaurant and you've ordered something and something came back the way you didn't like it, but you were too afraid to send it back, or you were too afraid to say something? Practice there. Practice in any moments of your life that maybe don't feel as highly charged. Start practicing there, because the more you share, the better and the easier it becomes for you. I'm here for you. I'm here to support you. Again, please come on over to the Brave Heart Rising group. We'll continue to do the conversation over there. Thank you so much for watching. I love you guys. I'll see you soon.